Hello and welcome to Playing at Home, a three-part series where we'll be exploring some of the essentials of playwriting and developing our own ideas for short theatrical scenes. My name is Maura V. Harris and I'm a playwright and a teaching artist, and I'm really excited to be sharing this with you today. As a playwright, something that's been really hard lately is staying at home and seeing the same stuff around me, the same walls, the same people, day in and day out, and not getting the kind of unpredictable excitement and sights that I'm used to being inspired by. So I've designed this workshop to kind of help you reconnect with the space around you and be inspired by some of the things that you might be a little bit sick of, and hopefully put that inspiration into your writing. Some materials you're going to need for today's lesson are paper for writing, as well as a pencil, preferably one with an eraser on it so you can fix any little mistakes you might make. And then some paper for drawing as well, at least 3 sheets. It's totally cool if that's all the same paper, whatever you've got. And then optional but recommended is if you have any colorful writing utensils available. I've got some colored pencils here, but you could use crayons or markers. That'll just make the drawing portion of today a little bit more fun, but you can also totally just use your pencil. So take a second to gather that stuff and we'll get started. Today we're going to be exploring one of my favorite aspects of playwriting, which is the development of characters. Now, characters are the figures that we use to tell the story on stage. So the people or animals or talking inanimate objects that you see the actors playing, those are the characters. And it can be kind of tricky to come up with ideas for characters if you're not seeing a ton of people or new faces. And you're not having these interactions to inspire you as much. So the idea for today is to use some objects you've got around your home or your space as inspiration for some really dynamic, interesting, complex, fun characters. Our next step is I'm going to set a timer for 30 seconds. And I'm going to ask you to run around the room you're in like a total maniac and grab 3 objects. Now these 3 objects don't have to be exciting or interesting. They can just be things that it's cool for you to use for this session, something that it's fine that you're examining and holding on to for a little bit. And they should also be objects that are different from each other. So you don't want to grab 3 books or 3 pencils, right? So each object is different. You've only got 30 seconds, so don't overthink it. And if you're not at home right now, you could just use 3 objects that you've got in your pockets or in your bag or that you can find outside. Super adaptable if you're in a different type of space, okay? So in just a moment, I'm gonna start the timer, so get ready. Ready, set, go. And we're back. So you should have your 3 different objects. I just grabbed a couple of things from my kitchen. I found an onion, a blue bag clip, chip clip thingy, and a fork. So nothing super exciting, just some random junk. So what I'd like you to do now is examine each of these objects more closely. And we're going to make a list of descriptive words to describe each one. So I'll start with a fork. And I'm just listing anything I can think of here. So this fork is silver. It's shiny. It's spiky. But it's also smooth. As I'm looking at it more closely, some of the tines are a little bit bent, like something happened to it in my dishwasher. So I'm going to write slightly damaged. But it's useful, it feeds me. The metal, it's a little bit cool to the touch, so I'll write cool. And it's not a very fancy fork. It's pretty simple. I'll write simple. Okay, so that's my fork. So you can pause the video here and just go through and make 3 lists, 1 for each of your objects. And when you're done with that, come back to me. It should only take you about 3 minutes to do those 3 things. All right, good work. So you should now have your 3 lists describing each of your objects. Now we're gonna switch over to doing some drawing. Now, I don't consider myself a visual artist by any means. So this drawing is really just gonna be for me, to help me visualize what I want this character to look like. So we're going to look at each of our lists and draw a person that we could also describe using these same words. So for example, I'm going to draw my bag clip person. So the list I wrote down for this bag clip said dark blue, shiny, strong, always holding a bag of chips, helpful, overlooked, and then simple. So now I'm going to imagine a person that can be described by all or at least most of those same words. So dark blue, I'm going to set that aside for the moment. I'll probably just put them in like a dark blue shirt or something. But I'm really interested in this always holding a bag of chips part of it. So I'm gonna draw a guy, I think, holding some chips. I already like this person because I love chips. And I'm gonna put him in a pretty plain outfit because I also wrote overlooked, so maybe someone who he brought the chips to the party, but like nobody even appreciated him for it. Already feeling for this guy. Shiny, so maybe he's nervous. He's like a little sweaty. So I'm gonna draw some sweat glistening on his face. And he's helpful, so I think he'd be smiling, even if he's a little nervous, a little bit uncomfortable in this situation. And I was gonna put hair on him, but I'm just feeling bald. Maybe to go with the shiny word, so he'll be a bald guy. And it says he's strong, and I don't know. I didn't draw him with a lot of muscles because I'm thinking maybe he's just a strong person and his personality. And he like wants to be of service to people. He wants to make sure everybody gets some chips. You know, he's a good guy, and I'm gonna give him a name. Let's call him Humphrey. And I didn't even use a lot of my colors to do this because I'm doing it quickly for you. But there's my chip clip man, Humphrey. You can make fun of my drawing. It's not the best. All right. So I'm gonna take some time and make 2 more characters for my onion and my fork. And I'm no time limit for this. Take as long as you need to come up with 3 characters and just really get to know them by drawing their picture. All right, so pause the video here. So you should now have 3 drawings. And you've spent some time thinking about the exterior of these 3 characters. So what they look like on the outside, what they wear, their costume, right? We're now going to spend a little bit more time thinking about who they are on the inside. And maybe you've done a little bit of this as you've been drawing, but now we're going to start writing it down. For me, the best characters are the characters that are a bit more than what they appear on the outside. They're characters that have a sense of their future, things that they want to happen, hopes, dreams. And they're also characters that have a history, a past, things that happened to them before this story even began. Their own passions and interests that are unique and special to them. So in order to create a character like this, I'm going to have you do a bit of free writing. Now that means you're just going to write whatever comes to mind without judging it too much, which is no easy task. We're used to going back and correcting each sentence as we put it down. And I'm going to encourage you right now to let that go and save the judgment and just let your imagination flow on the page. I've got a couple of questions for you to answer. But if you think of other things that are interesting that you want to be sure to write down, go ahead and do that. Grab your first character, whoever you're the most excited about. I'm probably going to stick with my friend Humphrey here just because I love him so much. I'm never going to look at this bag clip the same way. And I'm going to ask you some questions. You write down the answers, and we're going to create a sort of character biography and inner description. A sort of map of what they're like inside. My first question for you is, where do they live? Who do they live with? What do they do on the average day? Do they go to work? Do they go to school? Something else entirely? What's their average day like? Who do they love? Who do they love? What do they worry about? Everybody's got worries. What do they worry about? What do they dream about? What do they dream about? When are they the happiest? What makes them happy? What are they the most afraid of? So what's their biggest fear? Great work! Now take a few moments to read over the description you just wrote. Underline anything that surprises you, interests you, or excites you. Anything you want to be sure to keep in mind as you move forward with this character. Take a second to read and highlight. Great. I hope you're starting to fall in love with this person. So you can now repeat these steps for the other two objects on your own until you have 3 brand new characters. Once you have your 3 characters, spend some time thinking about how they might appear in a story together. Would they get along or would they argue? For me, I feel like my fork and my bag clip would get along, but I don't know if my onion would. What setting might you find all 3 of them in? How could they be related to each other in a story? Think about all of those things, and next time we'll talk a bit more about settings and how to create a sense of place in your play. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.